Welcome to the Sankofa Ancestor Shrine, where every week we invite spiritual Black folk to reconnect with our ancestors as we journey through the crossroads. Please consider donating through patreon.com/Sankofa Shrine. Ancestors, we have so much going on around us in our personal life, work life, political life, and global community. Protect us and keep us and our families safe. Remind us to take extra precautions and cover us with the protection of our bloodline. Please help us to find ways to connect with each other as well as nature, even during trying times, times when we are scared and times when we need earthly comfort. Surround us with faith, empowerment, and reminders of ways to protect ourselves both spiritually and physically. Ashe. Ancestors, we have so much going on around us in our personal life,
brand new day,
work life. Welcome. Today, I noticed a lot of us are still at home, doing, the stay-at-home order or quarantine, self-quarantine. So a lot of folks are just at home. So I figured I would try to make up for the missed session that we just had. I tried, y'all. I tried so hard to get that one done. And then I missed it. And then afterwards, I was like, I need to take a break. So I had like a whole busy health situation thing going on. And basically, myself, my womb, I was like, we need to chill for a second. So that's what today is going to be, a continuation of a very relaxed session where we read a little bit out of Mules and Men. And I'm hoping I haven't read this part to you all before. But we do have a lot of new subscribers. So welcome. And I hope you enjoy this excerpt, which I think, says a lot about ourselves and how we can see ourselves today, even though she wrote this about people who lived so long ago, ancestors who lived so long ago. So if you happen to have the book, where are we in the book? We're in part 2, Hoodoo, part 4 of that chapter, or section, should I say. And my edition is page 230. I always love to show the illustrations of this one. I'm not sure what edition I have. I'm not sure when mine. I know they've reissued this one. This one's from the 60s. I was going to guess 70s. That's pretty funny. Oh, well, here we have 1978 was when mine was printed, but it was renewed in 1963. So there you go. I was going to guess 70s with this art, but there we have it. Interesting. This part in particular is about Dr. Duke, but I also want to use it to, self-reflect for ourselves, for you and I. So, get comfortable. I have a heating pad on, y'all, so I'm trying to be relaxed as well and enjoy time in the house. My kids are getting restless, though, for sure, but I'm super nervous about them going to the grocery store or, anywhere that they would normally go with me to. So, but the good news is grocery runs are a little faster without them. So, Dr. Duke is a member of a disappearing school of folk magic. He spends days and nights out in the woods and swamps and is therefore known as a swamper. Quick note. You wouldn't call hoodoo folk magic in modern day use of English. Typically, that is not condoned or encouraged. It's usually referred to as a religion or practice. He spends days and nights out in the woods and swamps and is therefore known as a swamper. A swamper is a root and conjure doctor who goes to the swamps and gathers his or her own herbs and roots. Most of the doctors buy their materials from regular supply houses. I wanted to read that line out loud to you all. Most of the doctors buy their materials from regular supply houses. I think that part is so important to highlight because it's a reminder to ourselves that we don't have to make everything. It's important for us to, I believe, have, basic things that we do make for ourselves and we can make for ourselves. Perhaps, we have our spell book grimoire, special notebook that we keep that has information in it that we could utilize. But I do think it's important for us to support others and for that to be certain people's livelihoods because, once you start, it's like I liken it kind of to, if you'll remember when we all start making our own home items, cleaning items. At first it's it's so simple. All you do is this and this. All you do is this and this and this. All you do is this, 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 and this. And then you heat this for a little while. And so it starts to become really time consuming. And then you're oh yeah, that's why you buy laundry detergent pre-made. My bad. And I think it's the same way here. We can get really into certain things. And I do think having, the experience of making your own Florida water, or having the experience of, making your own candles and doing all these things is important. And of course, certain things are always going to be something that you probably do yourself, like dressing the candle or what have you. But other things, I do think it's okay to purchase from other people in finding those people whose spirit you resonate with, whose information you resonate with, and their energy, you trust what they're doing, you trust when they say they're putting in this sweat and work and praying over this stuff, that's what they're doing. So I think it was important that she noted real quick that this is not the typical. Most root doctors buy their materials from those who are designated as spending a portion of their time gathering or preparing or praying or what have you over all these things, So take it easy on yourself in that regard. Don't be feeling like you're a fraud if you have to buy things always that you feel that you need, But at the same time, we're not supposed to be just building up a collection because it's the cool thing to do. Everybody's buying this, so I'm going to buy it just so I have it on my shelf. I guess if you have it like that and you just want to support people, but it's not necessary, He took me to the woods with him many times in order that I might learn the herbs by sight and scent. It's very necessary to get that hands-on experience, right? Not only is it important to be able to identify the plant, but the swamper must know when and how to gather it. For instance, the most widely used root, known as John the Conqueror, must be gathered before September 21st. Wonder of the world root must be spoken to with ceremony before it is disturbed, or forces will be released that will harm whoever handles it. Snakes guard other herbs and roots, and they must not be killed. He is a man past 50, but very active. He believes his power is unlimited and that nothing can stand against his medicine. His specialty is law cases. This one I think is also important to note, that he does have a specialty. Like, he has a specialty in the swamps, and then he also has a specialty with what he does with his roots, and then he can procure things for other people to, work their roots on as well. So he's not just like the master of all things, has to do everything for himself. Like, he understands where his strengths are with these things. His specialty is law cases. People come to him from a great distance, and I know that he received a fee of $185 from James Beasley, who was in the parish prison accused of assault with attempt to murder. For that particular case, we went first to the cemetery. With his right hand, he took dirt from the graves of 9 children. I was not permitted to do any of this because I was only a beginner with him and had not the power to approach spirits directly. They might kill me for my audacity. So, that part in particular, having the respect, to not just go to any old graveyard. I mean, if it's family, by all means. If it's gathering earth from like a particular location, still you should always ask, even with a tree, if you're taking something, asking the plant and getting that yes or no energy, moving on if this isn't the right thing or the right time, and really learning to read your intuition in that way. But, her going there to witness, to learn more, to build up the understanding, and especially, him going to the graves of 9 children, too innocent to have done anything in life, right? The dirt was put into a new white bowl and carried back to the altar room and placed among the burning candles facing the east. Then I was sent for sugar and sulfur. 3 teaspoons each of sugar and sulfur were added to the graveyard dirt. He prayed over it while I knelt opposite him. The spirits were asked to come with power more than equal to a man. Afterwards, I was sent out to buy a cheap suit of men's underclothes. This we turned wrong side out and dressed with the prepared graveyard dust. I had been told to buy a new pair of tan socks also, and those were dressed in the same way. As soon as Dr. Duke had been retained, I had been sent to the prison with a dressed Bible, and Beasley was instructed to read the 35th Psalm every day until his case should be called. On the day he came up for trial, Dr. Duke took the new underclothes to the jail and put them on his client just before he started to march to the courtroom. The left sock was put on wrong side out. Dr. Duke, like all of the other conjure masters, has more than one way of doing every job. That part was super important. Dr. Duke, like all of the conjure masters, has more than one way of doing every job. I think this part is important for you to remember that, what works for other people doesn't work for you always. And then to follow your intuition on using what you have when you have it. Sometimes you don't necessarily have the items that you think you need or that you usually use. And being able to adapt is kind of what Conjure is really all about. And so keeping that in mind, that, you know, even professionals can switch it up and do switch it up and have, you know, plans for how to switch it up as well. Oh, and the rereading, and re-speaking out loud and affirming certain words of covering, protection over yourself, protection from your God, from your ancestors, spirit guides, etc. And then the dressed underclothes, also offering certain, elements of protection and outcome. Dr. Duke, like all of the Conjure Masters, has more than one way of doing every job. People are different, and what will win with one person has no effect upon another. We had occasion to use all of the other ways of winning lawsuit in the course of practice. In one hard case, the prisoner had his shoes dressed with the court. That was to keep the court under his control. We wrote the judge's name 3 times, the prisoner's name 3 times, the district attorney's name 3 times, and folded the paper small, and the prisoner was told to wear it in his shoe. Then we got some oil of rose geranium, lavender oil, verbena oil. Put 3 drops of oil of geranium in 1/2 ounce jockey club. Shook it and gave it to the client. He must use 7 to 9 drops on his person in court, but we had to dress his clothes also. We went before court set to dress the courtroom and jury box and judge's stand and have our client take perfume and rub it on his hands and rub from his face down his whole front. Now, Jockey Club is a sort of cologne. I'm pretty sure colognes are something that is very traditional for Black Hoodoo culture that a lot of people just don't think about or utilize. But yeah, there's many different kinds. There's many options beyond, just Florida water. And making colognes, finding the ones that you want, finding old school ones, finding somebody who has them can be difficult and be really new territory. But I like that, this was used and then it was used to dress the whole situation, the person, the physical location. That can be helpful if you have access to a location that you know that you're going to need this kind of protection. Going ahead and dressing the situation, even if it's just for confidence, that could be something that you utilized. So dressing a room as well as yourself, your own altar, your own jar, in a sense. So you would also set yourself up for success in another way, as well. And we had our client take perfume and rub it on his hand and rub from his face down to his whole front. To silence opposing witnesses, we took a beef tongue. We've done this before, I believe. We've read this one before in a different, from a different book. We took pins, 9 needles. 9 pins, 9 needles, and split the beef tongue. We wrote the names of those against our man and cut the names out, crossed them up and slit in the slit of tongue with red pepper and beef gall, and pinned the slit up with crossed needles and pins. We hung the tongue up in the chimney, tip up, and smoked the tongue for 36 hours. Then we took it down and put it in ice and lit on it from 3 to 4 black candles stuck in ice. Our client read the 22nd Psalm and 35th also because it was for murder. Then we asked the spirits for power more than equal to man. So many people came to Dr. Duke to be uncrossed that he took great pains to teach me that routine. He never let me perform it, but allowed me to watch him do it many times. So this was a very interesting thing because he had so many different steps, right? This was very thorough. When you have such a situation that is so serious that it's like really affecting your livelihood, affecting your whole life, how your whole life is about to turn out, I do think it's really necessary to remember to pull out all the stops. I think sometimes we think like we just kind of half-ass the job, or we just kind of want something else to do the work for us, because we're just hoping for a miracle. It's hard when you're facing stuff. It's stressful. It takes a lot out of you energetically, and you just kind of want it all to stop. But recognizing sometimes like some of this is a little out of a lot of people's league. Even like thinking about it, even considering these options is like out of people's league. So you do need to have somebody that you can hire. And then even if it's not out of your league, sometimes it's beyond your, like, you're just too emotional about it or too connected to the situation. So it's really important to have people that you trust that can do readings, that can do other things that you might need. And yeah, so I think it's just, that was such an interesting how he went through and systematically like took out all the options, pulled out all the stops for what was necessary in this situation. Because it's so serious. They're like trying to get him for murder, but the person isn't like dead. So like this is something where it's like a moral thing. And so it's really, really important that he went through all the steps for sure. Next she mentions he takes 7 lumps of incense. And incense is another thing like cologne that isn't always used, but I mean, it is used. I do think like, using incense is something that, generally we use to cleanse the space without even thinking of it, but it's not held to the same esteem as, say, a sage stick bundle is. But incense, are usually very ritualistically made. They're very, the way that they burn is very balanced and even, and you can get a lot of different scents, a lot of different smells, that really resonate within you or the situation that you're attending to. And I think it can be so much more freeing and, able to be manipulated into the situation that you need to a better extent than just having, even my sticks of cinnamon, those are good because I like to start my day with them in the kitchen and burn them up. And, my children love the smoke and everything too, but incense have a whole different realm because they can just do so many different things. You don't have to be adding all this other stuff together or using something that, may not really have much to do with you personally. Or historically, but it just happens to be accessible at the time. Because I think almost everywhere I've moved for the last like 4 or 5 places, there's been like a sage stick just sitting there waiting. They're pretty accessible at this point. They're everywhere, which is not a good thing. They are, being over harvested. Take 7 lumps of incense and take 3 matches to light the incense. Wave the incense before the candles on the altar. Make client bow over the incense 3 times. Then circle him with a glass of water 3 times and repeat this 3 times. Fan him with the incense smoke 3 times. Each time he bows his head. Then sprinkle him 7 times with the water. And if you'll notice, that was like a smoke cleansing method. Very ritualistic, repetitive. Added up to 9, and it involved really smoke cleansing the head as a way of energetically cleansing, right? and protecting, adding. Sprinkle him 7 times with water, then lead him to the front, to and from the door, and turn him around 3 times over incense that has been placed at the door. Then seat the client and sprinkle over every corner of the room with water 3 times, and also 3 times down the middle of the room. Then go to another room and do the same. Smoke his underclothes and dress them. Don't turn the client's hand loose as he steps over the incense. Smoke him once at the door and 3 times at each corner. The room must be thoroughly smoked, even under the furniture, before the client leaves the room. After the evil has been driven out of him, it must be driven from the room so it cannot return to him. So there we have this powerful uncrossing of smoke cleansing, where this person had, so much going on with them energetically. And so, remembering, just like I said, that power of smoke cleansing that can give, but it can also take, and it can be used for so many different purposes. And it can be used on your children. It can be used, but with children, I always am wary, because one time I had somebody message me that they were locking their kid, or somebody, maybe it was their step kid, I'm not even sure, some child that they had deemed evil, in the bathroom, and were sticking their hand in there, smoke cleansing, or trying to with sage, and the kid is it smells bad, and she's thinking it's because they've got something wrong with them. And I'm well, it could be because you're assaulting them in the bathroom with smoke. It should be a very ritualistic, respectful thing that your children are a part of, and that they, participate in, and that they understand is from a place of respect and love, and not hate or trying to drive evil from them necessarily, or all these other things. You're driving love right into them. If it's something really serious, then you should probably get a professional, so you're not, ruining your relationship with your children. Especially if you're wrong, like this person, I'm pretty sure clearly was. All right, so that's all I wanted to read from the book this time, because it goes on and on with not just Dr. Duke, but obviously other people as well. I do have her other stories, and so I might be pulling out Uncle Monday for this week's video. I'm just gonna catch up. I do want to not fall behind, or not give people the videos and something to listen to and enjoy, just because I do have people who donate, which I'm very grateful for, and I do also know that a lot of people look forward to having something spiritual to keep them on track and on their journey, as they participate in venerating their ancestors, in venerating nature, and really coming to see the world from a different perspective, and more indigenous perspective. So with that said, thank you so much for joining me for this shorter session, and until a couple days from now, next time, may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads.